Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GC Live, the Hard Fowl. As always, I'm Intern Joe. Along with me is Wrigley's dad, Collyn Taylor. Collyn, how we doing?
I'm here, buddy. I'm here. I texted you like right before we went on. I was like, "Yo, we're gonna try and keep this thing tight tonight." Between me being up until 2, writing a lovely long form feature on Jack Mahoney, which you guys can go read. I highly encourage it. To 3 baseball games in 3 days and all that fun stuff. It's been a whirlwind weekend. A lot of good, but it's time to get some sleep here after this show. So let's rock it. And now it's time to talk some South Carolina men's basketball. But before we do, I'm learning.
There you go. Yep. Baby steps.
We are always 100% presented by our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. He is the title sponsor of everything Gamecock Central related. He loves everything South Carolina, loves everything Gamecock Central. So if you're looking for a house, or if you're looking to buy, or if you're looking for a house to buy, if you're looking to sell, Clint's your guy. You see all of his information right there. His NMLS number is right there as well. Give Clint a call. He will not let you down, and he will help you do whatever you need to do with your home. It's that time of year where we're cranking up and we're busy. I know we don't have a whole lot of time to do a lot of house buying stuff, but Clint can help you out with everything you need, and he's a great friend, good person, and someone you can trust to help handle all of your house needs while you focus on some other stuff, which includes South Carolina sports.
Absolutely. As always, gotta rep who this show is brought to you by. We always appreciate
he helps pay the bills, and that's the important part.
Absolutely. He is our guy over there at the Movement Mortgage Network. So getting into it, South Carolina men's basketball won a game, Collyn. Won a game.
They won a game, and they have won 2 of their last 3, if my math is correct. And the KenPom highlights show it.
Yep.
Good for South Carolina. They go on the road. I still don't figure that one out. They've been so much better away from home than at home. If you find a reason why, you let me know. But a much needed, really outside of like the end of the first half, really a drama-free win if you're South Carolina, because you were up double digits most of the game. You come out shooting like crazy. You in shooting like crazy. You scored 20 points in the first 10 minutes. And then you play arguably your best offensive game of the year. Very, very good all the way around. Just impressive for a team that could have easily folded after all of the drama and all of the things that happened against Vanderbilt. For them to respond the way they did after what was probably a very frustrating few days in those offices and in practice. You come back out and you do what you did and you get a great win. LSU's not good, but South Carolina, you can make the argument, and we'll talk about it later, could be playing their best ball in this stretch here over the last month, which is what you want to see for Lamont Paris, this fan base, and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really don't understand their success on the road either. Lamont kind of talked about it in his call-in show a little bit, but what he brought up was on the road, their schedule's a little bit more regimented, and he knows exactly what guys are doing. And we've seen that previously in programs or in regimes past that, home games are kind of a challenge. Some guys are out late, who knows? But I think it is a big bounce back win. Obviously, a topic of conversation is Gigi Jackson back in the starting lineup. We'll get to that. That's such a big piece, big bounce back game from Gigi. But I guess, Collyn, what stuck out to me the most is that you had 4 of your starters in double figures and high double figures, over 15 points. Gigi with 20, Hayden Brown with 16, Michi with 20, and then Jacoby Wright with yet another stellar game with 18. I think that speaks the most, or that sticks out to me the most, because you're actually getting production from your starters, and especially your backcourt, right? It was something that had been, kind of down, very hit or miss throughout the year. And this team decides to step up and really shoot the ball well and efficiently. They shot 46.3% from the field, and that's probably the most efficient they've shot all year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And
I think it's close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're finally getting production out of your backcourt. And then, obviously Hayden Brown continues his tear. 16 points from the big man, 7 rebounds. And you also got 7 rebounds out of Josh Gray. Obviously not a super big night on the boards for him, but 7 rebounds for him. Just all around really good effort. They led from start to finish. And it was just a butt kicking of this Lamont's team.
It's a palate cleanser. It's a palate cleanser.
Yes, absolutely.
2 teams that are at the bottom of the league standings, close to, I think, South Carolina. South Carolina right now, by the way, is 12th in the SEC, with tiebreakers, I guess, over. I don't know if it's a tiebreaker, but you split a series with Ole Miss and you beat LSU. You have a tiebreaker over the Tigers. You're playing in the first game in league. You're playing on the first day regardless. We'll talk about SEC stuff here in a little bit, but the big word that you use, the buzzword efficiency, according to KenPom, which I love, those KenPom numbers are awesome. South Carolina averaged 126.2 points per 100 possessions. That is the best they've done all year, 126.2 points per 100. They allowed 112.4, which is not great, but you're talking about a net efficiency of plus 13.8, which is by far and away your best in SEC play, by far and away your best per 100. And the next best after that was Kentucky, where it was 5.2. So nearly triple your best net efficiency against LSU. And it's obviously because, anytime you hit 15 of 32 3-pointers, your points per possession are going to be a lot better. But you hear efficiency, and it's such a buzzword in college basketball now. But that game was the modicum of efficiency. You're talking about scoring 82 points on just 63 possessions. For South Carolina, that's what you want. That's 100% what you want. And Jacoby, 18 points on 9 shots. Michi Johnson, 20 points on 11 shots. Hayden Brown, 16 on 9. G.G. Jackson, less efficient day, but 20 points on 17 shots. But he goes SEC play, or not an SEC play, but he goes 4 for 10 from the 3-point line. Then you go to the line 18 times and you make 17 of them. That's what you want. 20 assists on 25 makes. Mm-hmm. Everything about that offensive game was efficient. You rebounded 9 offensive boards. You got 16 second chance points. It was just everything Lamont Paris wants this offense to look like. It did. And you shared the ball. You got good looks. You got all sorts of stuff. And it was perfect. It was as close to perfect an offensive game as you could have if you're South Carolina. And yes, LSU is not very good. I don't think we're breaking any news there. But you did what you were supposed to do. You went down there. South Carolina, again, statistically speaking, not very good. But you went down there and you did what you were supposed to do. You went on the road. You got to win, and you come back, and now it's murderer's row to figure out what just the last 3 games before Georgia are just absolute, haymakers that you're going to have to withstand. So it was good to get a win when you got it, and now can you take that, which happens, there are 2 wins in SEC play outside of Kentucky, which that win's getting more and more impressive as it went on. Kentucky beat Tennessee. Can you take what you've done against the 2 teams below you in the standings, copy and paste it, and continue that forward against a national champion caliber team in Alabama and a Sweet 16 Elite 8 caliber team in Tennessee? and then a Mississippi State team that's on the bubble and fighting for its tournament life. So that's what's next. Take that efficiency and move that forward into games against Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and then back at home against Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that always brings it up. I got the crazy shades on, obviously, because it was such a big win. And also, I will say this to everybody asking questions. We will get to that towards the end. We appreciate all the questions. We have a little Q&A at the end. But yeah, I mean, one thing, like, too, obviously you want to carry the shooting, but the team chemistry that I saw on Saturday was probably at an all-time high for this squad. Like, they were moving the ball, they were playing together, which after all the Gigi Jackson drama and everybody from the outside voicing their opinions on, the Lamont's lost the locker room and they don't want to play for each other. That game shows you that they definitely still do. They are still a team and that they are more than willing to, be cohesive as a squad. And, everybody was happy. That's the most smiles I've seen out of that team in forever. It's another thing you got to take forward into Bama and Tennessee, because those are going to be tough games, right? And if you can take forward, like, build off of that, it stinks that we've waited this long into the year for, a very cohesive and very, chemistry building win. And that's just the unfortunate side of this year, I guess. But it's just, you got to take that forward, because you're going to have a couple tough games, Collyn, like you said, against Alabama, against Tennessee. But it is all about how you wrap up the season. They do have some winnable games down the stretch, and obviously Georgia too. Mississippi State, I don't want to say it's not a winnable. Like, you can definitely go ahead and win that game. Obviously, they've been hot recently. They've been playing well, but I mean, I don't think it's necessarily out of the question if they play like they did at LSU. Now, obviously, like I said, Georgia is the game that you're circling on the calendar, is the winnable game that you have to win, because last game of the year, they're coming into Colonial Life. You took them to OT last time. It's pretty much, the biggest game left. And, you want to shock the world, obviously, but realistically,
right.
It's a stretch, but who knows? It's college basketball, and we're almost to March, but odds aren't likely that they win those two games. So you're looking ahead to Georgia as your biggest game yet. And, you just want to carry that jump shooting, that field goal percentage. It's, the first time we've seen that efficiency.
Right. And that's the thing too, is that when you look at Alabama right now, Ken Pom has South Carolina as 20-point dogs to Alabama and 23-point dogs to Tennessee, 15-point dogs on the road at Mississippi State. They're only a 2-point dog at home to Georgia with a 41% chance to win. So obviously, when you look at that, just things on paper, the Georgia game is the one that you look at and say, okay, this is the one that South Carolina, if they're going to win one more down the stretch, the likeliest one is that one. And you never say never. But, when you're talking about giving a 4% chance against Bama, a 2% chance against the Vols, and an 8% chance against Mississippi State, that's tough sledding. That's hard to do. And if you're South Carolina, it's more about what it looks like, the competitive nature. Are you moving the ball? Are you getting good looks? Are you defending? This is not a good defensive team, but are you defending? Are you doing things that you need to do to make the other team earn what they get? And easier said than done against the quality of opponent you're going to have to face down the stretch. But you certainly can show improvement without the wins being there. And I think you saw that for South Carolina when they were losing to Georgia, when they lost to Mississippi State, when they lost to Arkansas and Missouri. They were getting so close. And that's what it kind of has to look like when you're talking about Bama and Tennessee and Mississippi State down the stretch. But and two, the Vols and Mississippi State and Georgia to a degree, you lost those two by double digits to Tennessee and Mississippi State, both at home. Can you rebound and look better against them this time around? And I think they can. Will they? To be determined. But like you mentioned, they were passing up the old cliche. They were passing up a good shot for a great shot. They were moving the ball. They were rebounding the ball. They were doing the things you needed to do to win basketball games. And that's what you want to see moving forward. Are you sharing the ball? Does the ball stick? Does the ball get to the spot when it needs to get to the spot? And if those things happen, it'll at least look better, regardless of what the result is. And you can make the point, and I know we'll talk about it probably right now, but like you can make the point South Carolina's playing its best basketball of the season right now.
Yeah. And after the last couple of weeks, I didn't see it coming personally. Just
No.
the way things were trending, especially with the GG noise and all of that. It looked like it was going to come to a fiery crash and all that stuff. And there were even questions. It's like, is GG even going to be on the plane and all that? And that was clearly an overreaction. And so GG, talking about GG, back in the starting lineup again, 36 minutes, played, the most out of anybody on the team. And, 20 tied with Michi for leading the team in scoring. Also led the team in rebounds, Collyn, which is what I think GG's, success, or where I think GG's success offensively came from. I think, he was just more of himself in the post, or more of what we wanted to see and what I'm sure Lamont wanted to see out of him in the post. He's huge. I mean, the kid is massive, and he's Lamont played him at power forward, or kind of at the 3, the 4. They kind of rotated back with Hayden Brown, but ideally you want to see him as kind of a stretch 4. And GG got gritty, and we had been talking about this for weeks now. Like, how does GG kind of get it going, and what does he need to do to really kind of get back on track? And we've talked about him just getting gritty in the post and really, 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 just getting ugly in the post, getting rebounds, getting defensive stops. And that's kind of what he did. And obviously it paid off, right? And
8 boards.
Yes. Very big boards. He had an assist of his own, but, no steals, no blocks, but it's just, again, the rebounding is what carries over, and it helps him to, go up, get that board on defense, and then run in transition. Right.
Right. And it puts him in go mode,
yes,
for lack of a better term. It puts him in attack the rim mode, and he got to the line 6 times, second on the team behind Hayden Brown. But that's what you need from GG. You need him aggressive. Yes, he's going to take some bad shots here and there, but when he's hitting threes, which he did, he shot 40%. And when he attacks the rim, that opens up everything for South Carolina.
Absolutely.
And to do what they did without Chico Carter, who's dealing with that knee injury, that's the next step, is that they were able to do that without their best 3-point shooter on the team down there with them. And that's what you need going forward from GG. Get the board, push, and go. And that's you can do that, and then you put yourself in attack mode, and guys are running lanes, and that opens up Michi in the corner, Chico when he's healthy in the corner, Jacoby right now, who's in the corner. If you do those things, then you're talking about a team that can be a little bit more efficient, can compete better with the upper echelon SEC teams. You might not be winning those games, but you can compete better in those games when you're doing the things you need to do offensively to give you some success.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself. As we transition into, I guess, the closest game of the weekend, the women's basketball team, they win 64-57 in overtime against Ole Miss, coming off of they played Tuesday or Wednesday, correct? But coming off of like a
Thursday,
massive win over Thursday. Yep. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But coming off of like the biggest game of the year, the past weekend, they get a win Thursday in pretty high fashion. And then they go at Ole Miss, and the game goes to overtime. I mean, very unlike Dawn's squad, and I guess the biggest scare that we've seen since they were out on the West Coast. But Collyn, kind of talk me through that one. What did you see there?
Yeah, just sloppy all the way around. 15 turnovers to 17 assists. You only shot 3 of 11 from 3, 15 for 22 from the line. Granted, Ole Miss wasn't a whole lot better. They were 2 of 9 from 3 and 9 of 17 from the line. But you did enough to win. Good teams find ways. You're going to have clunkers. Every team. Georgia struggled with Kent State in football this past year for a stretch in the first half. You're going to have a clunker here and there. Can you find a way to win it? And they did, and it wasn't pretty by any stretch of any imagination, but you went on the road, and I was watching on TV in a hostel. It sounded loud there. You go on the road and you win that game, and it's not pretty, but you get on the plane with a 0 still in the loss column, and you feel thankful probably to get to that point. And if you're South Carolina, you got to clean up the turnovers. You really got to clean up, some of those issues there. But if you do, you got a chance to finish this thing strong, and you got another tough test coming on the road again this week against Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, no shot at Ole Miss either. They're 20-7 and 9-5 in the conference. They are a very solid basketball team. And so to get a team like that on a Sunday, where you've had a lot of momentum and a lot of hype behind your team, it's pretty reasonable to think that, you're going to struggle. And it is a clunker game. If like you said, Collyn, every team's going to have those. And obviously South Carolina, what stuck out to me the most was their star players. Their two, biggest stars played the best. The two players that you're really going to rely on in Leah Boston and Zia Cook. You saw yet another trademarked Leah Boston double-double, 13 points, 12 rebounds. And then you got 24 from Zia Cook, which is, it's not mind-boggling anymore. It's pretty normal.
That's her.
Yeah, exactly.
Her.
She is her.
Yeah. And so 43 minutes, by the way. She played 43 minutes.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you got 40 from Bree Bill also, who had 8. But, I mean, these girls were gassed. And also you saw 30 minutes from Camila Cardoso and Raven Johnson. We talked about, the rotation being a big deal and how Dawn kind of keeps her starters fresh. And I think, by the way, the way they've been winning recently and the way they've been able to get in everybody, I think that's how they win games like this, right? Because, Aaliyah Boston hasn't had to play 34 minutes every night, Bree Beal hasn't had to play 40 minutes every night type of deal. And so I think that's the luxury of blowing out teams, is that your starters have more stamina going forward. And Collyn, I will pose this question to you.
Ooh.
Does this change how we view the team going forward? Number one, undisputed number one overall. Do you think it'll change the view at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There will probably be people that look at South Carolina, because there always is, looking for any chink in the armor. This was a tough knockdown, drag out kind of game that you're going to get in the league, and Ole Miss is good. I don't pay as close attention as Chris Wellbaum does to bracketology, but could this be a tournament Ole Miss team? I feel pretty safe to say, yeah. You're playing a team that's good, 20 wins, and you find a way at the very end to hold on, win this thing. And the frustrating part of your South Carolina is you had a chance to put this thing away in regulation. And I think Aaliyah missed 3 of 4 free throws. But it's just one of those things where you find a way to win in overtime. And if you're Ole Miss, you're probably thinking, man, we got to win this thing in regulation, because we don't have the horses to compete with overtime. And that proved true. South Carolina, obviously, 9-2 in overtime, just dominant. So, when it came down to crunch time, especially on that final possession, it was what's South Carolina's calling card, and it's defense. And Aaliyah Boston locked that girl down. She turns it over. South Carolina doesn't get the shot, but it forces overtime, and then defense holds on the rest of the way. So, do I think it should change how we view South Carolina? No. I still think this is a team that very much has a chance to go undefeated. And I think it's a team that every now and again you're going to have a clunker. And what you hope is you get all those clunkers out before the NCAA tournament, before you have to face an LSU, a Stanford, UConn, or somebody else like that again. You get them all out of the way and iron out those kinks so that you can, dominate. And then that's what they've been running. Clean up the turnovers, cut down on those. And that gives you a little bit more of an offensive push. And that's what they were missing today when they were only averaging. The defense was there. But, if you're South Carolina, you only averaged, 86.5 points per 100 possessions. It's not what you need. So if you can up that and just, build offensively, then you got a shot to really do something and clean up everything that you've cleaned up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I brought up Brian's comment because I agree. I think, if this team was going to lose a game, you would think they'd lose one. Obviously, they did their job today to keep the overtime, or to keep the undefeated season intact. That's Dawn's squad is gritty enough to get that done and to grind it out to force overtime. And you're right, Collyn. I think Ole Miss would have wanted to win this thing in regulation. They didn't, and obviously we saw what happened in overtime. But I think a loss always helps a team. And like Dawn's going to treat this as a loss. They are definitely going to be working as hard as they would if this were a loss, if not harder, because Dawn, I credit to Dawn, she's very good at finding motivation internally or externally. And so this team today, talk about improvements, they weren't sharp from the free throw line, 68.2%. It's good, not great. It's something that they've struggled with all year and that definitely need to get better at. And they will, I would assume, come tournament time. They shot the ball 37.7%. Again, not great, but enough to get the job done. And going forward, you're going to need to tune that up. But, like I said, I think, they're going to treat this one as a loss, if you will. And Dawn's going to do exactly, what she would. If it were a loss, you go at Tennessee. That's another tough one, 7 p.m. game on ESPN. So another nationally televised game, another big one,
against a brand, like a brand of the
yeah,
sport.
exactly. I was going to say the house that Pat Summitt built,
right.
Everybody knows about Tennessee women's basketball. And by golly, if they're going to have any motivation to knock off the undisputed number one overall and an undefeated team, they'll definitely have a lot of drive to do that. And so I think that's, your toughest test. And then you've got Georgia at home for senior day before you go into the SEC tournament. And, Tennessee's obviously it's the biggest test.
Right.
You got to win that game.
Remaining, yeah.
Yeah.
Far and away. And because you don't know who you're going to face in the SEC or in the NCAA tournament. But as you look at the rest of what's left, there's not much left, if we're going to be completely and totally honest.
Yeah.
Tennessee, that road game there, at a tough place to play. That's the one that's tough right now. If you're just like we're doing for the men's team, we're looking at where do the wins come down the stretch. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about the women's, like, well, where are the toughest matchups? And right now, Tennessee is that. And then depending on what happens in the tournament, whether it's SEC or NCAA, that's still a couple weeks away for South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. And senior day is going to be cool because you get to celebrate Aaliyah Boston's class, that really, really, really talented class. It's going to be really, really cool to see, that class. I'm pulling up the stat right now. Shout out to 107.5 The Game as I was listening to that game. The stat was Aaliyah Boston and her classes, they are now 128, going into Tennessee. Like they were 118-8 going into Florida. And that's a lot of wins, Collyn, to be 112 games or wins ahead of your losses. That's pretty good.
I'm not one of those sports cliche dudes. I hate sports cliches, even though, I'm a sports writer. But I subscribe to the winners win mentality of if you're a winner, you're going to win regardless of where you are. You are just going to find ways to do it. You're going to do the things you need to do to win the games. And, Aaliyah, Bree Beal, Zia Cook, I know those are the three main ones. I can't remember if there's anyone else. I don't know if Letitia Amir was in that class or not. Winners win, and all three of and every single one of those people in that class are winners. And that's just what it is. And winners. You look at the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts was a winner in high school. Was a winner in Alabama. Was a winner in Oklahoma. Goes to the NFL. In 3 years, he's a winner.
Yep. And
you just winners win, man. And I've said it a ton, but winners freaking win.
Yeah. 120-8 is just absolutely insane.
That class, I just looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Bree Beal, best defender in the country.
Oh yeah.
This Aaliyah Boston woman, Aaliyah Boston, National Player of the Year last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. About to be.
Potentially back-to-back. Zai Cook having a transcendent year as the lead guard for South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're talking about Letitia Amir, who's been a pretty solid role player for this team, has started games for them in the past. Yeah. And then you're talking about Olivia Thompson, who's been kind of that unsung, vibes person on the bench for a really long time. So, that's a class that from the minute they got to South Carolina, they've been successful. And I don't know if you've heard me say this, but you know what winners do?
Winners win.
They win.
Winners
win. They win. So, that's a class that
out.
South Carolina went from great, because with, Asia Wilson, Elena Coates, and Alicia Gray, and Kayla Davis, and Ty Harris, and Destiny, that 19 class came in, and they went from great, truly great, to now you're talking about a transcendent program. Now you're talking about one of the, I hate the word dynasty, and I think that there's a lot of rules to be that, but you're talking about the apex, the true apex of the sport, that very few programs in women's basketball have been able to ascend to, and South Carolina is there right now, and that's really, really impressive to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I talked about it last week. With the starters not playing as much in these blowouts, it's just gonna keep replicating and keep going. The next class is already ready because they've played in so many games, and I mean, that's how you become the example of the sport. And so I think it just keeps on moving. But shout out to that class. I don't know if they're the winningest team or winningest class in South Carolina basketball history. I'm sure our guy Wellbaum knows.
Pretty doggone close. If they ain't.
Yeah, exactly. 128 is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. But Collyn, you know what else is bonkers?
What's bonkers?
Tax season. So we're going to call it our title. Yeah, I know. Smooth intro. So the Hard Fowl is also brought to you by Taxiety. Taxiety is that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood, open 9 to 9 weekdays, 9 to 5 on Saturdays, with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in, give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. You can call them at 803-462-5576. That number is, once again, 803-462-5576. Give them a call for all of your tax needs. As Collyn, we segue into back into men's basketball.
The future.
Yes, the future of men's basketball. Talk us through, I guess, what the squad might look like in 2023.
Yeah, because we're approaching, this is bad radio on my part or bad live showing on my part, but we're entering into this transfer portal window looming, of course, and I guess what is that? Mid-March, once conference tournaments start to end up. South Carolina is going to be active in the transfer portal, and now is kind of the time to start. If you're a coach, a coaching staff, you're looking ahead going, okay, what do we need? And if you're South Carolina, your needs are pretty vast right now, as evidenced by a lot of the statistical stuff. And I think the staff understands that they're going to need to have a large influx of portal talent to pair with what's on this roster currently, and to take that next step. So that's going to be interesting. You're right now, with the way it's going, you're at One player is for sure out. In Hayden Brown, he doesn't have any more eligibility unless he finds it under his bed. The one that's interesting, you have an open scholarship as well. You're playing this season with 12 scholarship players.
Yep.
So you have one player out.
To me, by the way.
Right. Trust me, I'll send you a number and I'll make a few calls and we'll make it happen.
Yep.
My
jumper.
If Eli Sparkman was in the game the other day, you never know, buddy.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, so math is not my strong suit. You have one player leaving in Hayden Brown for sure because he just doesn't have any more eligibility, and you have an open scholarship. So that means you're 2 under the limit right now. If everyone comes back, you're 2 under the limit. Your recruiting class is Arden Conyers and Collyn Murray Boyles. Those are 2. So those 2 offset. So that means if no one leaves, you're talking about that being your roster. You're going to see attrition. That's just how college basketball works. You're talking about, whatever that looks like. But as you go into that and you talk about the attrition, South Carolina's really going to be heavily focused on the transfer portal. They might kick around a few high school kids like we talked about with Jamie Shaw from a decommitment perspective, from a reclassification perspective. But for the most part, they're going after established college players out of the portal. What that looks like right now, we don't know. You get all these questions of, well, do you, what positions do we target? What positions? I don't think South Carolina's at a point right now to turn away good players. So if there's a point guard that wants to come play for them, they'll take him. If there's a big, sure. If there's a center, even better. They're not in a position to really turn down guys. But Intern Joe, if you were South Carolina and you were on staff and Lamont Paris or one of the assistants called you and said, Intern Joe, what should we target in the portal? What qualities should we target in the portal? What are you telling them?
I'm telling them, well, I appreciate their opinion. They're asking me for their opinion, obviously. But, I mean, if I'm Lamont, I'm going after guys, like gritty guys, right? Guys that can, help your team out on the boards offensively, defensively. You also want some veterans, right? Some guys that have been there before. That's something that my biggest complaint, I guess, with this team and the whole Gigi Jackson saga was that there was never really a veteran for him there. And I mean, Hayden Brown's been around the block, but I mean, if you're looking for some guy that's played, big time basketball from one of the Power 5 conferences, I think that would be ideal. Because you're going to get, so many new faces. And ideally, I mean, maybe you can get one from the SEC as well. But you want an older guy, somebody who has been around the block, because now that Lamont's through his first season, he understands what the grind of the SEC is like. We talked about that. That whole thing is gone for the staff, right? They've been through it once. Granted, they're still learning, but the newness of it all is a little less, fresh. It's a little less tender. So I think, obviously you want an older guy. I agree with the whole thing, like talent. You'll take any talent that you can get. And doesn't matter, guard, forward, whatnot. It all depends on what leaves as well. We've heard rumors about Josh Gray. I can't confirm anything about that. But, I mean, if you lose Josh Gray, you lose Gigi, who knows? Because, the season isn't over yet. Guys haven't made those decisions. The only guy we know is, like you said, Hayden Brown. So right now you're looking for anything. Can't necessarily recruit until, the season's over, or else, you get a couple violations slapped on you. But, I think Lamont's obviously looking at guys, some guys who, I'm sure they hear the rumblings of, oh, so-and-so is unhappy and whatnot, but they just can't act on it. But the biggest thing for me is you do want a veteran. You want somebody who's been around the block, who can kind of mentor some of these young players, right? That's how you build a program. And then ideally you would like a guy who's been around the block a little bit, but also still has some eligibility left that you can really usher in these new guys with, right? Because that's how you build a program, build a culture, is with guys sticking around. And unfortunately, the culture of college basketball is, guys leaving for the NBA. As soon as they have a hot season, they go to the NBA or they transfer. And I mean, the transfer portal made it even worse the way it is now, the guys getting up and leaving and whatnot. But that's kind of how you build the culture is, right? You have veteran guys who stick around and understand the culture, understand how you play, and then are able to, teach the younger guys as they go through, hey, this is what South Carolina basketball is all about. And you just need that going forward.
Yeah. I don't like speculating, especially right before a season ends, on who is leaving, who doesn't. It's not fair to him. Whoever, it's not fair to the player. It's not fair to his family. It's not fair to the coaching staff either, who's trying to keep a team together over these last 4 to do it. So if you come here looking for Collyn saying this player's gone, that's not going to happen. But what I'm going to say is that you just need to get proven production at the college level, preferably proven production at a high major level, SEC, Big East, Big 12, Big 10, ACC. You need proven production, guys that have done it. Maybe not to the level that you expect them to, but guys who have proven that they can play in a role and then build on it moving forward. So that's what I think they're going to go for. I think they're looking for older players, those veteran guys who have played a lot of minutes, to pair with young talent. Obviously, not from a roster attrition perspective, but from a performance perspective, you'd like to see them target big men. The front court's been such an issue at times this year. You would like to see them go out and really bolster the depth there with Hayden Brown leaving, because for sure he's gone. Really add to that depth, whatever that looks like. If it's Josh Gray and BBV and Collyn Murray Boyles, that's great. If it's not, then you obviously have to go find other pieces. But what does that look like from a depth perspective? Can you go get more big men? I think you need more shot creators. I think you need guys that have won. You saw it at, a couple of these places that go to the tournament. You look at, let's say Kansas State. Kansas State goes out there and they're having this transcendent year under a new staff. A large part of that was because some of those transfers that came in came from winning programs. You're talking about Keontae Johnson coming in from Florida, a program that's been to the NCAA tournament. You're talking about a Desi Stills who was at, Arkansas and Arkansas State. Arkansas, more specifically, programs that have won at a high level. So you're looking, if you're Lamont Paris and the staff, can you go get dudes that maybe it's been at the mid-major level, but they have won places. They understand what winning looks like. I think that's going to be important, and you're looking for that competitiveness. What does the competitive side look like for them? So I think that's something, and I think you need just guys who have been through the grind before in that role. And when you look at the roster now, I mean, pick anyone on this roster right now. They've never been, outside of maybe Hayden Brown, in that role for an entire season ever. Michi Johnson, Josh Gray, Chico Carter, Gigi Jackson, Jacoby Wright, all the freshmen, BBV. You've never had that. So bringing guys that know their role, that have been in that role, and can do that role now at this level. The last thing you want that transition to be, from mid-major conference X to the SEC, or from high major conference Y to the SEC, and not you're making the jump from a mid-major conference to the SEC and then changing your role alongside of it while learning a new system. So guys that can help make the process easier for you if you're South Carolina, to pair with some of the incoming talent that you have, or the guys that are going to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, shout out to our guy, Jamie Shaw. If you guys want to catch that interview, it is over on our YouTube page. Wonderful interview with our man on 3, fellow companyman.
Man, Jamie Shaw.
Yes, absolutely. He's our man for sure. So shout out, Jamie. If you guys want to catch that interview, we have it posted in its entirety on our YouTube page. So go check that out. He gives more of a.
You're here anyway. When we end,
yeah,
go over, click, watch.
Absolutely. So might as well, go.
Let's go to questions, my man.
Yeah,
I gotta play the spaghetti for it. I gotta play the spaghetti for me waiting when I'm done with this thing. You ate before, I'm eating after.
I did eat before. My I put a little college spin on chicken and rice. But anyways, get into questions. Here we go. So first off, we got Gary. What is the injury to Chico?
He is dealing with a knee injury. He's had tendonitis for a while now. I forget what game it was, but he missed a large chunk of that game because a lot of it in the second half because he just didn't play a ton, or he didn't play because of the tendonitis, and it's kind of flared up on him from time to time. And I guess Saturday was another time where it flared up. He only played looks like 12 minutes against Mississippi State and 18 against Arkansas, dealing with tendonitis. But I've seen him even against Vanderbilt. He had a heating pad thing on his knee or his leg that was trying to probably help deal with some of that stuff. But it's tendonitis in his knee.
Yep, good stuff. Next one from Melissa Taylor. What made the difference for basketball this weekend?
Melissa, that is a very good question. I appreciate that. I think it was their fast start. I think it was them coming out like gangbusters. I mean, you're talking about a team that scored 20 points in the first 10 minutes of that game. You shoot what you shot from the field, and that just gives you confidence moving forward. You have some proof in the pudding. Guys start feeling better about their shot. Guys start feeling more confident. And when you go and you shoot, you average 116 points per 100 possession in the first half. They got better in the second. You shoot 8 of 16 from 3. You assist on 10 of 11 makes. All that stuff is great. And that just allows you to build on that. So I think that was a big difference. And then this is a team. We've said it before. It's the offense and defense are so connected that when one's going well, the other one's also going well. But when one slips, the other slips. And good teams are able to disconnect. And South Carolina right now is just not a team that, because of the inexperience at times, is just not able to disconnect. And that's what you have there. So I think the offense helped the defense, which then helped the shooting and the confidence, and you get the result you did.
Yeah, I was going to say, the biggest point about Gigi, obviously him being back in full force and grabbing boards. That team was very tenacious. And I mentioned it earlier too, the chemistry. For some reason, this team played together. I can't explain it, Collyn. I don't know where it came from, how he did it, but Lamont found a way to do it. And I'm not saying I was surprised. I figured that was in Lamont's repertoire. I knew he was going to be able to get the team to play with each other eventually. But after everything that had happened and just all of that, I didn't see it coming. But I think by them playing together, that's how they got it done.
Great question, Melissa. Good work.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one from Gary Bryson. What is our free throw percentage in SEC games, and who is our best shooter in SEC play?
South Carolina currently ranks 9th in the SEC in free throw percentage. I'm doing the math in my head, 14 games. So you're 70.7% from the free throw line in league games. Your best free throw shooter is Daniel Hankins Sanford. 1 for 1 from the free throw line. So perfect 100%. No, your best is Michi Johnson. Mm-hmm. Outside of Hankins Sanford, who's 1 for 1. Michi's 36 for 39 at the free throw line, which definitely means against Alabama, he'll go 1 of 12 because we're jinxing him. Mm-hmm. But he's 36 of 39. The free throw percentage is really impacted by Josh Gray, who's only I'm looking at the numbers now. Gigi's only 65%, Josh Gray's only 44%, but Michi's 92.3, Hayden's 66.7, which is okay. Chico Carter's 9 of 12. Jacoby Wright is 22 of 28, which is pretty good. Zach Davis is 8 of 9. BBV is 7 of 10. So you have some good free throw shooters on this team. It's just about getting those guys to the line more than the guys that are struggling there do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Brian's, it's not a question, but I'm turning it into a question here. He's most worried about Stanford come March. Collyn, what team are you most worried about come March for this women's basketball team?
It's got to be Stanford, right?
Yeah, I think Stanford. I had IU up there too.
Yeah.
Number 2 ranked IU. They've proven that they can win games. I don't think Iowa is necessarily a big challenge because Dawn is game planned around, Iowa before. She knows how to handle Caitlin Clark. So I think IU, Stanford, not really worried about UConn, not really worried about LSU.
Yeah.
Notre Dame has been really hurt. Duke has also been really hurt. A lot of the ACC's kind of banged up. So I think Stanford, IU, we'll see.
Would be two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stanford showed you that they can really, really handle South Carolina and present a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Will's question, and I'm going to pair this with the Josh Gray question. Is GG 100% gone? And then also Jackson's question. What are the Josh Gray rumors? I'll handle the first one. I had just seen some stuff on Twitter. There's no substantial evidence towards it. It was just, is Josh Gray going to leave or is he not? I brought that up as something from Twitter, nothing behind it. I shouldn't have brought it up. I don't, also, like Collyn said, I don't want to speculate. Also going into the GG question, don't really want to speculate. It's GG's decision and the season isn't over yet.
But to what I will say about GG is he's even admitted on the infamous post Arkansas Instagram Live, he's at least toyed with the idea of coming back to school. What I think I do think he'll declare for the draft, but in college basketball, you can't come back. So he's going to go through the process. It'd be stupid for him not to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'll make a decision after that. And listen, if he's lottery first round, like, go. But you're seeing nowadays in college basketball, if you're a fringe second round pick into the first, beginning of the second, it might behoove you to stay in school and develop there and make money with NIL and instead of potentially being a G League guy. So it's GG's decision. He's at least mentioned publicly that he's at least thought about staying in school. But we'll make that decision he and South Carolina and his family will make that decision once the season's over and he starts to get feedback from NBA teams that have watched him very, very closely over the course of the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also why I don't want to speculate on Josh Gray because he hasn't mentioned anything publicly or anything like that. So I apologize for bringing that up. Nothing really behind it. RL's $5 question here, Collyn. It's a doozy. Would you rather have a tail that wags uncontrollably or eyebrows that move up and down on your own? I'm going to let you answer that one first.
Now, do I have to have bushy eyebrows or do I get to keep my eyebrows that you can't even see my eyebrows half the time?
That's a good point.
So I would do the eyebrows because you don't really see a whole lot of my eyebrows, or I can just wear a hat and it covers up most of my forehead. And then if they're moving up and down, no one's really going to notice that much.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say with the eyebrows, just wear a bucket hat and
little dad bucket hat action.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in our business, it will kind of get you in trouble sometimes if your eyebrows raise at a bushy and dark is the follow up. I'm still gonna go with the eyebrows, Collyn. Just because,
I'm still going eyebrows too.
And like caterpillars, because like in our business, I guess it could get you in trouble, raising your eyebrows at the wrong thing. But I mean, personally, as a human, I would not want a tail that wags uncontrollably. No. I mean, granted, if I were a golden retriever, absolutely. Because
if I was Riggs,
give
me that tail.
Absolutely,
give me the eyebrows as a human.
Absolutely. So, I guess getting to our last point, Brian's last question about our baseball team to win more and more. I'll put the shades back on. He's a little bit of a news here. I guess we can drop the concept, right?
There will be what you see now and what you're enjoying now. There will be a baseball version at some point soon.
Yes, absolutely. We'll keep the name under wraps because it's a doozy. We love it. But yes, there will be a GC Live baseball show in the near future.
Date, time, and when it starts.
Yep.
A little TBD. But we will be on here. Gamecock Central will be on here talking South Carolina baseball.
Yep.
Who just scored like a gazillion runs and hit 400 home runs. And to Brian's point, I do think their pitching depth gives them the ability to win more midweek games, and their offense should help them as well. So I do think you're going to get more midweek wins.
Oh, yeah.
And before we close out, give a big shout out to Jack Mahoney. I got to write that story about him. If you haven't read it, please do. I worked really hard on it. Getting to know him, obviously, through his time in South Carolina, getting to know his family, getting to know his high school coaches. It's no wonder why he's successful, and really cool to see Jack do what he did, and him get to share that with his family. Who I saw him today at the baseball game, and they were emotional. Yes, there it is.
I put the link. Yep.
Yeah, the link's in there.
Yep. Go read it.
But they were emotional before the game. I can't imagine what it was like during, right before he took the field, and really happy for Jack to have that moment. Easy kid to root for. Really, really, really easy kid to root for.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, plenty of action over on the diamond.
Yes. We got 50-something more of these to go before the postseason. So
absolutely. And I'm hyped for the baseball show, man. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Probably a little bit more fun than talking about this men's basketball team quite a little bit. And but I'm excited. This team is going to be really good. And obviously, to Brian's point, you gotta win the midweek games. It's gonna that's a key. And when you have a guy like Matthew Becker and his ridiculous curveball starting your midweek game, I think you're gonna do okay. Yeah.
When you have the Eli Jerzenbecks, the James Hickses, the Eli Joneses of the world. Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate you. She might have gotten a sneak peek of it last night.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, just great. And this is a team that on paper has a chance to be in contention for a top 16 seed. Will they do that? Who knows? Will that on paper translate? Who knows? The offense did look a little bit better today, but excited about what the season is. And I think there's a lot of potential for this team as you kind of really dissect what you saw. And UMass Lowell is not LSU, but it's a very good start for South Carolina. And that's what you want. If you're Mark Kingston and you need wins, and you got them this weekend.
Yeah. Clearly we are bursting at the seams, if you will, to talk about baseball. Yep. Oh, yeah, plenty more puns where that came from. But, yeah, I'm excited. That's why it's going to be fun. There's going to be so much to talk about with Gamecock baseball. We'll have highlights, everything, all of it, all that and more coming up.
And Mike Yuva, I believe, just posted our video recap on Gamecock Central. Let me double-check that before I promise you something.
Yes.
Yeah. Extra innings postgame show. Locked and loaded on Gamecock Central. Watch that, hear us recap everything and all the fun that is Gamecock baseball this weekend.
Absolutely. All righty, Collyn. That is Collyn Taylor. I am intern Joe Machika. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. It's over. Thank you.
Hi, Mom.